Hello and most welcome to H936. We're having a real lovely day here, and as the sun develops I was thinking I'll continue the H series with dynamics of time and space with a fractality on the cover. It entices me and it has caught my interest now finally after all these years. The next paragraph is called Birth of Wisdom. Let me continue. Although there is no original tracing of knowledge, no source that it must conform to, the body of knowledge can manifest with more or less refinement, in ways that are more or less comprehensive. We can become skilled in facilitating knowledge accordingly. For example, we can learn to feed knowledge back into itself, developing greater complexity. Such a redividing becomes dynamic creation, a progressive revealing of the body of knowledge. As we come to understand its unique quality, knowledge shines forth. What we know becomes the carrier for knowledge, dynamically stimulating and inviting a knowledge that is more than global. The ultimate outcome is the birth of wisdom. To let knowledge arrive at wisdom, we can set aside all judging. We can abandon our attempts to capture appearance by dividing and classifying. We know too well what it is like to stand outside, the self-appointed spokesperson, proclaiming and announcing and attempting to pronounce into being. And we know that this is not the path to wisdom. The active alternative to these approaches is to invite and embody knowledge by turning inward toward time and space. Our being in time, space and knowledge can become subtleties of time, space and knowledge. We can connect with ourselves, our body, our time, our experience and our embodiment. Cultivating knowledge in this way, we need not develop precise definitions of the terms that we use, not even the terms time and space and knowledge. Although this is our usual way of knowing, the quest for such clarity can actually undermine inquiry. Our definition can pluck knowledge prematurely off the vine, preventing it from ripening into wisdom. Once we can let go our concern with reporting back every step of our progress, we have the opportunity to invite a deepening knowledge. As we extend and advance and elaborate, innovate and sustain and crystallize, we activate the inward, indeterminate knowledge of ecnosis. I like that, it's a Greek term. It is like suddenly learning how to fly. Before we advance in a mechanical way, now we can soar and float and sweep and swoop. Knowledge is the giver of wings and the worker of wonders, the magician who performs feats so astounding we had never imagined them. The profound contributions that we have come through knowledge in the past can be matched today. There are countless pathways: inquiry and meditation, art, philosophy, experiment and prayer. Access is there if we ask for it. Knowledge works its magic even now in offering us the mysterious gift of knowledge. Until now we have known this and not known it. We have made efforts without certainty of success, have experienced advances and setbacks, have sought guidance or asked for blessings. Now we can look ahead with newfound confidence, for we know the great secret. Knowledge gives us the key to knowledge. We're already at chapter 18. I hope I'm not boring you with reading directly from the book, but trust me, there will be comments quite soon. Just need to get some sort of foundations for going further. In a way, this poetic style, defy understanding, needs for me to sort of sweep into the understanding. Chapter 18, the priority of knowledge. Conventional knowledge, together with the ways of knowing that make it possible, is the carrier for the body of knowledge. For instance, as we interpret and question experience, a more pervasive knowing feeds back projections that are available for organization, assembly, and classification through logic and other structured ways of knowing. This same natural knowability is available in less obvious ways. For example, there is the ability of the eyes to see, a sensitivity to light coupled with the capacity to transmit light forward for further operations that let us give appearance shape. Again, between the active reception of light by the eyes and the final pronouncement of what is so by the mind, other knowledge mechanism operates to cognize what arises and to merge what has been cognized with the previously arisen. Although these faculties of cognition are not ordinarily accessible to consciousness, we might speculate that inspiration and discovery can be traced to instances when we suddenly tune into such hidden fields of knowledgeability. Perhaps we could investigate such occasions and explain the factors that make them possible, so that they became more regularly available. Such a methodology would accord with our usual ways of proceeding from the familiar to the unfamiliar, as exemplified in the step-like sequences of explanation. However, knowledgeability can manifest in less standard ways. History records many such major shifts in knowledge, times when knowledge itself seems to transform or unfold. In our own lives, sudden insights and epiphanies likewise point toward a self-unfolding of knowledge. Our sense of qualities and aesthetics, our ways of seeing and hearing can all be influenced by these internal revolutions in awareness, which encompass our ordinary knowledge but also go beyond them. If such shifts are possible, if the knowledge available to mind can be transformed directly, then new forms of knowledge are open to any of us. We do not have to change the course of our lives or devote ourselves single-mindedly to spiritual or philosophical or psychological pursuits. Actively involved in the busy round of daily life, applying the constructs of our normal rational cognition, engage in the ordinary, we can discover a unified knowledge that is directly available. And this actually brings to mind how it used to be when I was younger, and knowledge seemed to be accessible in every and other way. It wasn't limited to schooling, and it at that point still hadn't sort of formed into a mold by conformity. And I remember the curiosity and the energy that knowledge gave me. It was something interesting, it was something that constantly gave me something. Very, very different from the academia I later learned, that rather than opening up knowledge, restricted it and made it inaccessible and far away. It seemed more to be a tool to communicate success to other people, and mostly stranded in just concepts for the reason of concepts. And this rather annoying renaming of everything. And I start thinking, I remember this song, is that all there is? And it was like the professors resounded, yes, there is nothing else to it. I think that hopeless situation changed with me with deconstruction, when I realized there were loads of knowledge to be had, even in those texts I previously encountered, and had been sort of blinded to the depth of them and the intricacies. And this is like turning back to such a period in my life where curiosity drove me, and the flow of it was different. Knowledge just came. Now knowledge comes with a huge struggle, and it doesn't seem to be worth it once I get it. What a positive read. It's surprising, even though the poetic language is a bit tough to handle. It's a bit juicy. Although this such a methodology would accord with our usual way of proceeding from the familiar to the unfamiliar, as exemplified in the step-like sequences of explanation. However, knowledgeability can manifest in less standard ways. If such shifts are possible, if the knowledge available to mind can be transformed directly, then new forms of knowledge are open to any of us. We do not have to change the course of our lives or devote ourselves single-mindedly to these different pursuits. We can actively be involved in the busy round of daily life, applying the constructs of our normal rational cognition, engage in the ordinary, and we can still discover an unformed knowledge that is directly available. This sounds like the Klein bottle, to be honest. Next paragraph. How knowledge arrives. The barriers to activating such knowledge center on the position of the self as a bystander. Early on in life, the self establishes a position from which it can point out. What has been pointed out takes on fixed characteristics. The egg must have its yolk and shell. The package must receive our seal. Our interactions takes place through the established structures and confirm their validity. We attempt to enact the perfection of our models, merging experience with the constructs meant to hold it, playing out the field communique. The field is established, and whatever arises fits into this field. We unite the future with the expected and let our hopes and expectation guide our conduct. A witness emerges to confirm what is happening, to assure that we will carry on. The patterns set up in this way identify with specificity the means available for acquiring knowledge. We must start from a specific point and proceed along a fixed path. We must learn, experience and practice. as we go about our business doing what we are set out to do. Our role at times is to seek or explore, while at other times there is nothing to do but to wait for the right opening and then act accordingly. In adopting these guidelines our own, we miss the openings that are already there. We are like a kangaroo making its way nervously across dangerous terrain. Starting from the pre-confirmed, we look around with concern, check yet again to see if the baby huddled at our belly is safe, and jump to familiar ground. There is no easy way out of the structures that foster kangaroo mind. Choosing not to do the expected is simply one possibility given by the established structure. Though doing and not doing stand in opposition, both affirm what has been established. The model that guides this way of understanding seems to indicate that knowledge is not presently available. Whatever we set to obtain or wait for a shift in circumstance that will allow it to arrive, knowledge depends on a force that can counter our not knowing. Is it truly the momentum that knowledge exhibits? Does knowledge arrive only with a forward moment of time, as if it were drawn in a carriage? Is it waiting up ahead for us to come and take possession? If either of these models is accurate, the entry points to knowledge will be narrow. The pre-recorded tape on knowledge will play forward, subject only to the possibility of a secondary rewinding. Governed by such structures, it will be able to know only in restricted ways. If knowledge is truly prior, however, this whole picture collapses if knowledge is available before all pointing out. There is no need to walk a narrow path if it is knowledge that activates the usual knowledge mechanism and precedes them all. An awareness infused with knowledge can pop up freely, independent of any mechanisms. The field of knowing that sets up the rhythm of the field communique is not confined to what is communicated. Beneath the tracings back and forth of the accustomed knowings, the field itself can open. Knowledge does not depend on taking up positions. Instead of focusing on particular observation or moving smoothly from this established meaning to that interpretation, we can loosen self-existence and open knowledge to presence. Before and within the designated specificity of coming into being, we can return to the open of the actual. Beyond conventional knowledge, the prior can become primary. Tracing the source. The view that knowledge arises from somewhere else is paralleled by the view that we know that what we know has a source. Often the knowledge we aim at is simply the successful naming of the source, understood both in the sense of an originating entity and a particular location. The limiting case for this model is the universe itself. For it does not seem possible to specify either a place from which the universe comes or an originating power for its appearance. The usual response to this difficulty is to seek a source in some other sense. For example, an originating power bigger than imagination, wholly unknowable, might transmit the message that originates the universe. Or it might be that the universe calls itself into being through a mechanism that is again wholly unknowable. In either of these two cases, a limit is placed on knowledge. From a bystander perspective, no other alternatives seem available. For while we can know what appears within the universe or trace process of universal application, we cannot actually have knowledge of the universe. That is, we cannot stand outside of it. However, the limitations on knowledge associated with the source from model extend far beyond this special limiting case. Such knowledge can never really give an account of itself in terms of either methodology or substance. Whatever we designate as source must itself have a source, and this source in turn must have a source. In whatever direction we turn our inquiry, we arrive at the 0 point of origination, only to find that origination itself cannot originate. Perhaps we need to question the whole source from perspective. Logic and reason may support the mind in proclaiming this fixed way of knowledge, but these two ordering principles also have no source. Whatever we point to our perceptions or read the rulings of the rational, the claims we make lack underlying authentication. If we call on absolute that offer the solutions of certainty, we cannot account for their status as absolutes. If we offer explanations, we cannot fully specify or justify the theory of description or explanation in operation. We cannot say how far we have understood or assess the ultimate accuracy of what we maintain. We lack the knowledge that could evaluate knowledge. And this is similar to the realization that sequencing, like in mathematics and in logic, has no prior sequences that says that we need to see one thing from the left or to the right, or from the right to the left. That's an arbitrary setting, and we forget that sometimes. And what Tarthang Tulku means is that the ordering doesn't have a source. And since I experienced myself, people reading things from so many directions, especially in China, where every direction is legit, even going from the inside to the outside and from the outside to the inside. And in a circle reading, which was the most difficult, where you can go from the inside to the outside and also vice versa. And then that made me understand that the idea of a specific way of reading is a making of my own. It's not out there in knowledge. It's a subjective limitation that I make, not a convention or anything like that. Knowledge is in itself unconventional and open, and it needs to be that way, because if we preemptively limit it, it will defy understanding. It will block out understanding before we even had a chance to investigate what lies ahead. I think this is enough heat for today. Cheers, and have a very pleasant afternoon.